Development Agent for the University of Florida IFAS Extension in St. Lucie County. And today we're going to talk about a really important subject. Buying an automobile can be a big endeavor. There's a lot of parts to consider when purchasing an automobile, and we're going to go over all those parts and talk about some things to remember so you can make sure you get the best buy on the best automobile for you. And before we get started, I want to thank Consumer Jungle. They have this presentation. I've been using their materials for quite a while now, and they're a great resource, consumerjungle.org, if you're interested in other financial topics that are more suited to teens, but good information we all need to know, presented in a really friendly way. And so thank you, Consumer Jungle. Let's get started. Just to set the stage, I want to let you know that today what we're going to talk about are all the parts of the auto buying experience, from the very first thing that we'll talk about, and the first thing you need to think about is the financing of this expensive purchase. Then we're going to talk about how to best automobile for you, and finally how to check up on the vehicle to make sure it is a quality purchase that you're making before you spend that money. We'll talk a little bit about leasing and what you might. We'll talk a little bit about maintenance also, because we can save a lot of money on repairs just by making sure we stick to our maintenance. I say that about a lot of things: our cars, our homes, our equipment, and our body. So, just saying. And then we'll talk about when it's time to go. So we get this purchase. So that's all the things we're going to cover. It's going to be a wild ride. I told you the first thing we need to consider, and the first thing we were going to talk about, is financing this auto purchase. So what we really need to think about is back to our first lesson on a spending plan. We need to know we have in our monthly income for auto payment. Perhaps we have been making a payment and we know our budget works with a certain dollar amount. Maybe this is something to your budget, so you want to make sure you know you have the funds for that monthly payment. And it should be the recommended amount of that auto payment. Financial advisors will recommend that you spend no more than 10% of your monthly income on. So if you make $500 a week, that means you make about $2,000 a month. 10% of that would be $200. You want to try to make sure in the $200 range. If you make more than that, say you make $1,000 a week, and that's $4,000 a month income, then you might consider looking at that you'd be able to come payment. So think about it in that way, if that helps. You also want to think about, are you going to trade in a vehicle and hopefully sell that back to the car dealership, and they'll pay off the loan if it has one, and you get the rest if there is any, and that can be used as your down payment? Or are you going to actually pay a down payment, several $1,000s that will help lower the cost of the loan so the payments can be affordable? Something you might consider. Start now setting that monthly little bit aside to build that down payment so you're ready to use that down payment to help you get a better monthly price on your auto loan. So, and you could actually have both, but usually people consider they'll do a down payment, or they'll trade something in and use the equity that trade-in has built. And you want to make sure that you've talked to your financial institution. It's really good to start with your bank and just say, hey, I'm your customer. What kind of a rate would you give me on an auto this many years, considering, my payment history and my relationship with your bank. Check that out, because a lot of times they want to compete for a loan. And if you walk into a dealership somewhere and you already know what your bank is offering you, then you can make better decisions about the financing that the dealership might be able to offer. And you can leverage that information against each other as well. I had one credit union bank manager tell me they let me know how much that I could spend on a car, and then she gave me her mobile number. The manager gave that if you're out shopping this weekend and they try to give you a better rate than this, call me. I want your loan. Not every banker will do that, but find the one that does. It saves you money in the long run, smart consumer. How much this vehicle is going to cost you over time, it's not just the cost of the vehicle that you need to think about. There will be sales tax based on your home zip code, or your home county, I should say, whatever the sales tax rate is there. There's going to be some to spend some money on, because it's important to keep this expensive purchase in a quality position, right? So, don't want to let it just deteriorate around us. So you might have opted for some routine maintenance or been offered routine maintenance in your auto loan with the dealership. Talk about that in a little bit, but bottom line is this is going to need some oil changes, new tires, windshield wipers. Anybody price windshield wipers lately? Oh my heavens, when did they get so expensive? So yeah, there's going to be the routine maintenance costs that you'll want to think about and budget for. Insurance. We're going to talk a little bit about that too in just a minute, but consider that if you haven't had a vehicle before, an added expense is going to be that monthly insurance cost to keep your vehicle legally on the road. Speaking of, you have to make sure you have a valid driver's license and register this vehicle in your state, in Florida, in my case. And just as a side note, for all you people moving to Florida, 3,000 a day, they say, are moving into Florida, but they're not saying how many moving out. There is a very, I'll say, I have heard people complain about the cost of registering an out-of-state vehicle in the state of Florida. So before you come here, be prepared. Just saying. So, so you will need to register that vehicle and pay an annual registration to keep your license tag valid and up to date. So that'll be an annual expense for you. And then, we routinely maintain our every so often there's an unexpected repair necessary. Some sensors not working correctly, or maybe we hit a pothole and we have to get our axle worked on. Something like that. Prepared for those expenses. Prices are highly volatile, going up a lot more than we would hope they would. So consider kind of what can you drive to work and school, or how many tanks of gas do you per month? If you have a lot of driving to do, you might consider your budget. Something to think about. And the last thing I'll mention is depreciation. Are a depreciating asset. You buy them when at this value, and over time, no matter how the value of that vehicle falls, until such the 1969 Camaro that's in great shape, and it might appreciate in value, but if it's your 2017 Kia Soul, that's a depreciating asset. So it's going to fall in value where you own it. Something to think about if you're thinking about it being a trade-in for your next purchase. want to maintain that vehicle at the best quality state possible so that you can get the most out of it when you go to sell it. So those are, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, but those are some vehicle expenses that you want to consider as you're thinking about how much you can afford to spend on your next vehicle. Now, the next question you might ask yourself at considering the price is, are you going to buy new or used? There are some people that believe only buy new. You don't want to buy someone else's problem. If someone didn't keep it very long, why? And I know some people think like that, and other people say or lose the depreciation in the vehicle. I'll let somebody else buy it new, get tired of it in a year or two, and then I'll buy it at a lower cost, and it'll still be in good condition and a reliable vehicle. So because we just talked about depreciation and how the fact that automobiles lose value over time. So that's something to consider when you're looking at new versus used. How reliable is a used vehicle? We're going to explore that. And you know, what's it going to be worth 5 years from now? If you're taking out a 5-year loan, when how much of a gap is there going to be between what you paid and what the vehicle is actually worth? So most cars you lose about a quarter of their value or their original value over the first 5 years. Some cars tend to hold their value longer. They're known to be more solid, reputable brands, and that's something to consider when you're looking at which vehicle you're going to purchase, is what kind of a resale value it retains. So the source you can go to explore that situation on any vehicle that you're considering is the Kelley Blue Book. They also have a website, kbb.com, and you can find out some really interesting things about your current purchase and where you expect that purchase to be in the next 5 years. I wanted to share with you really quick a nice visual of the shrinking value of automobiles. That depreciation I mentioned is most extreme in the first year. So as you'll see, and this is a little bit older example, but I love the graphic. You compare a brand new Cadillac DeVille sedan, base price, base features, four-door automatic at $41,000. You know this is an old graphic. Versus Mercury Grand Marquis, a Jeep Cherokee, a Chevy Cavalier, oh, and a Saturn, which they don't make anymore. This is pretty old. So when they did, they were really inexpensive, as you can see, brand new. But over time, look at that sharp decline over the first year. Within the first year, that Cadillac lost almost half its value. It's now worth a Mercury Grand Marquis. That is something to really think about when you're looking at the vehicle that you're going to own for the next 5 years. Just visual, thank you. Well, I hope by now I've been able to convince you that buying an automobile is a big and important purchase. It's probably going to be the second biggest purchase you make in your lifetime. The first biggest is usually a home. It is a long-term commitment, or it probably is. Some people have a routine of changing in their cars every 3 years. We'll discuss why or why not, why you would not want to do that, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. But think about this: how tens of thousands of dollars, you know, the average price, and these numbers have been updated as of 2020. The average price for a new vehicle is $33,000. That's a lot of money for some people. That's an annual salary for some people. Used vehicles are coming in just a little bit less than that. And currently, this is October of 2021, and currently prices have gone through the roof because current car makers are having a hard time getting all the computer components, which, law of supply and demand, there aren't a lot of new cars coming out of the manufacturers, so people are using up the supply of used vehicles, pre-owned, as some might say, and that's driving up the price of those used vehicles, which is good for someone who's looking to. So yeah, keep in mind what the price is and where you want to be. There are some really nice entry level models that will get you from here to there in a reliable way. And like one friend of mine told me, the road looks the same outside the front windscreen of Kia versus a BMW. So it usually gets you there just the same too. But it might be nicer to ride in the BMW. To talk about before we jump into the nitty gritty of what we're really going to look at is the vehicle identification number. Have you ever heard someone say, what's the VIN number? That's redundant. What is the vehicle identification number? What's the VIN? The VIN is a character number that's located on the left side of the dash, on the inside of the driver's door jamb, and on your vehicle's title and registration. It is a specific to that vehicle. So those three different places where that number is found, those numbers should all match. It will give you information that vehicle identification number provides information that is specific to that vehicle. How many miles did they report they drove that car? Does the odometer match that? And has it been in any collisions? We can track that, which we will talk about. I keep saying that. We got to get to the nitty gritty of this so we can talk about these things. But yes, that is a very valuable source of information about your vehicle. You want to know where it is and make sure those numbers match. All right, smart shoppers, smart consumers, here we go. We're going to talk about the four-step process of car buying. First, we're going to shop for financing. Saying it's the most important part. Then we're going to find out how to research this vehicle to the nth degree so we know all about it before we've spent thousands of dollars on it. And then we're going to talk about how we check out that car when we home that specific car that we might want. How do we make sure that that is a quality vehicle that's worth every penny for us? And then once we have a quality vehicle, we'll talk about how we're going to set that price, the negotiation or not that might be necessary for you to get the best buy on your automobile. And here we go. Step one, know your budget. Know your credit score. When you step into a dealership and or a bank to get financing for that vehicle, they're going to run your credit report. And they're going to want to know what your credit score is. The higher the score, the lower the interest rate that they'll offer you to purchase that to get into that auto loan to purchase that car. We have the highest rate possible. And whole other class that I do, I would love to share with you different ways to improve your credit score. And just to mention, annualcreditreport.com is the one site on the web that gives you your credit report completely free from all three major credit bureaus so you can see what your creditors are saying about you. It does not give you your score for free. However, you are offered the opportunity to pay a fee to get your score from each of the three major credit bureaus while you're there. So again, annualcreditreport.com is your one site on the web provided by the federal government by law for you to access your credit file. Anyway, so your credit score will determine the interest rate that you'll be offered for that auto loan. And you want to make sure you know your budget so you know how much you can afford for a car payment. We already talked about that. And really, it's smart to get from your bank so you know how your bank is willing to lend you your top dollar amount so you only going to get you a Chevy. You're not looking at a Lamborghini, right? So get pre-approved from your bank and know what they're going to offer so you can perhaps play your dealership against your bank for the best rate. It might provide you a money saving opportunity, but it does give you some security that you know how much your bank or your credit union is willing to lend to you before you even get started. Oh, and speaking of financing, you're going to have to choose how this car. The last I heard, the average auto loan is 6 years, and you can get an auto loan up to 8 years. I think even longer from some places. But we talked about depreciation, and we talked about what's that car going to be worth in 5 years? What's it going to be worth in 6 or 8 years? And you're still making those big $300-400 payments on it. Not a good situation, not where you want to be, because the longer period of time that you finance for, the longer you're going to be paying interest for that vehicle. And so the more that loan will cost you. And you don't want to end up upside down, like this gentleman. So what upside down means, in case you're not familiar with the term, it means that you owe more than the asset is worth. So once that vehicle depreciates, that brand new vehicle depreciates, you're upside down that first year of the loan, especially if it's that Cadillac that lost a quarter of it or almost half of its value in the first year. That Cadillac owner was, unless they paid cash, full price at the time of purchase, they were upside down in their auto loan. And what happens when we're upside down? Well, if something happens to our car and we're in a collision, our insurance company says, I'll pay you the value of your car. They don't pay you what you owe on your auto loan. They pay you the value of your totaled car. And there may be a gap between those two numbers. That's on auto insurance when you get a chance. But we don't want to end up upside down in our auto loan. It's an uncomfortable place to be. So we want to avoid that. Financial advisors recommend 3.5 to 4 years to finance a car. The average loan is actually 5 years, actually 6 years since I last updated this. And we want to make sure we are below average. In some places, it's good to be below average because we want to make sure we pay off that car as fast as possible and pay as little amount of interest as we can. Interest is just paying someone else for the ability to use money we have not yet earned. Think about it that way. And we pay a fee for that called interest. So try to consider the number of years to finance. The more you have a down payment to help defray the cost of that auto loan, that can help you keep that loan down to in a recommended number of years and keep the payment affordable. Or your trade-in might have enough value to do that job for you. A lot of times when you're shopping for an automobile, you see advertisements for rebates, dealer rebates, incentive rebates, things like that. That can help you save money on a vehicle. Some car manufacturers and some dealerships will offer rebates as an incentive to get people to buy when they need more volume in their business. So you can take advantage of that. Along with rebates, especially if you're doing the dealer financing. You may have that opportunity if you're financing through your bank or credit union and then go to the dealership and take advantage of the rebate. So think about that when you're looking at how you're going to finance it. If you're going to get a $4,000 rebate on a vehicle, you probably won't get offered a 0% annual percentage rate. So not is it you don't often get to leverage both. It's a one or the other. financing because we want to make sure we have our ducks in a row and we can avoid the situation of a repossession, because that will affect our credit score and our credit file for several years. It's expensive, and it's all kinds of ways. So we want to avoid that. Sure, you get in a good situation on the front end, so you don't have to worry about a repossession on the back end. If you are having trouble, however, because of a change in circumstance, having a trouble making your payment, communicate with your creditor. Don't just ignore them and let the payment slip by without some sort of a communication. If they don't know what's happening, they can't do anything about it. Bottom line, they payments. If it's a short-term situation, you might be able to skip a payment and add it onto the back end. Make your auto loan 1 month longer, just in case. It's not the most ideal situation, but it's better than a repossession. If it's be able to look at some other kind of financing, refinancing, something like that. But if you don't communicate with them at all, they can't help you at all. When you breach the contract, and they can initiate the repossession process. And how do you breach your contract? By not making the contracted payment on that vehicle. So you have defaulted when you've missed your payment. And the repossession can start then, which means that the financer can seize that vehicle at any time, at any place, with no notice whatsoever. You put it inside a locked fence on your property, parked behind your vehicle inside a locked fence, that's okay. They're allowed to go get it, and they don't have to notify you that they're going to get it. So if you're looking at that situation, please remove your personal items from that vehicle that you have not made the payments on in a month or two. You don't want to lose those as well. And, because don't deny that they're going to come repossess the vehicle, is what I'm saying. And if they end up with your personal items, by law, they cannot keep or sell those personal items, but by circumstance, you may have a hard time getting them back. It's really hard to prove what was or wasn't in your vehicle if that happens. So don't put yourself in that position, is what I'm saying. What else we need to know about repossession is, well, you can lower the cost of a repossession by voluntarily surrendering the vehicle. That keeps the cost of a tow truck and the tow truck operator from inflating the cost of the repossession that you're going to have to pay back if that happens. The creditor who has repossessed your vehicles, you in writing of what they intend to do with it. We're gonna keep it or we're gonna sell it, and you can demand it be sold. Um, just remember that the resale has to be in what they term a commercially reasonable manner for a reasonable price. So you may be able to find out that resale price and buy back your own vehicle. Some people have done that if they could get the money together. But whatever your vehicle sells for, your outstanding balance on your auto loan for that repossessed vehicle will be reduced by that sale price minus your creditor's expenses of repossession. So that's why a voluntary repossession can reduce your outstanding balance. And then you are left owing the rest that was of that loan that was not paid off by selling the vehicle. So would be called a deficiency judgment. In the end, after they had to repossess it, they resold it. They only got this much for it because the asset depreciated in value. Then they applied that much to your loan, and this is what you have left. You owe that for a vehicle you don't even have. So don't put yourself in that position, please. All right, so we're done talking about the money side of it. That's the drudgery part, right? This is now where we start to get to research that vehicle because we Americans, we love our cars. Automakers, that advertising reflects that they know that. They appeal to all of our senses because we love our cars. We love the feel of that rumble. We love the comfortable seating. We love all the gadgets and features and technology. And having an emotional response to a object, which is don't go in the same sentence together. So, we talked about the financing part, the contract part. Let's talk about the fun feely part. And we love the fun feely part of picking out our next vehicle. And so we want to get the best price on it. So person who does that research is bound to get the best deal on that automobile. And we're going to talk about some places to do that research. So here we go on step 2. Starts at the car makers. You can find a lot of good information from the car manufacturers' websites about those cars. They'll talk about basic information, the different kinds of the difference between the ES, the ESX, and whatever it is, the sports packages, the touring packages, what the difference is. They'll also mention the retail pricing. It's a good, but don't put too much stock in it. You also might want to know about the warranties. How long are they protected on the drivetrain? Do I need the extended warranty? How many years or miles will this vehicle be warranted if I bought it new? One thing to find is where the dealership for that specific auto manufacturer might be. You know, where's the nearest Honda or Chevy dealer? And some of those manufacturer websites will actually list some sources for certified used cars of that they've manufactured. So you could end up searching what and where to buy it right on the manufacturer's website. But keep in mind, as you're looking at their website, that their main purpose and presenting all this information to you, well, they want you to know the best things about that car. So the model information as the advertising. So what they tell you is all the good things. So we need to know where else to go, right? By the way, on the right side of your screen, you'll see some different auto manufacturers and their website addresses if you're not familiar with them. There are other places to go besides the auto manufacturer's website. So how about some of those pricing websites? There's some common searches and compare vehicles. It's really cool. Find out what auto vehicles are selling for in your area by going to maybe autotrader.com and put on vehicles within 50, 100 miles of you, certain vehicles, and see what people are asking and getting. Well, it'll tell you what they're asking, not what they're actually getting, because, you know, everybody knows you're going to get talked down from that price. I mentioned on the auto manufacturer's websites, there's the new car retail prices. Yeah, you can find that in these pricing websites as well, and you can find out the used car prices. Dealer info is a really important thing to know. We're going to talk about dealer info and incentives a little bit later when we talk about setting the price. So keep in mind, might be where you need to go to get some of the information you need to actually throw out that price you're going to offer the dealership for that car. So a lot of good information at those sites. Don't pass them by. They will help you with your decision. One of my favorite research sources is Consumer Reports magazine. like the University of Florida IFAS Extension Service and all extension services across the nation and in all U.S. territories, Consumer Reports Mag research-based information. You will note if you pick up a Consumer Reports magazine that there are no advertisements like most other magazines you see. They stated they don't want to be beholden to any of their advertisers to say something that may not be reflected in their research. So they are only funded by their subscriptions and donors. So Consumer Reports magazine does, they can tell you vehicle ratings, what other people who drive that same vehicle consider positives and negatives about that vehicle. Model reviews, they actually drive the cars themselves and review them on a regular basis. They talk about, survey their subscribers about their vehicle's reliability and share that with their readers. They talk about fuel economy and safety as well. So you might consider spending an hour or two at your local library, because I'm sure they subscribe to Consumer Reports magazine. You may not have to. You might consider subscribing to just a month line, so while you're researching your vehicle, so you can pop onto Consumer Reports online and research a specific vehicle that might interest you. They'll have the last 4 years of data available on the web. And the hard copy at your local library will usually have a year or two's worth on the shelf too. So you'll see Reports Magazine rates new and every year. It's an annual process for them. So they are very thorough, and you'll find out some really interesting things. Searching and found out that a lot of one car that I was interested in, a lot of the people who had that model already were complaining that the seat belt was very difficult to reach where they had put it. Now, after you drove it, in most cases. So I thought that was helpful information. Being a factor in the vehicle that you choose. And one place you can go on the web is fueleconomy.gov. This is a website that's provided by the federal government that rates the gallon for different vehicles, considering city and highway and combined conditions, as well as road conditions. Roads, so we don't have to worry about the fuel economy on those ups and downs, but people who live in curvy places might have a different experience with their miles per gallon on the same vehicle that we drive here in Florida. So, spend a few minutes checking out fueleconomy.gov to look at the expected economy of the vehicle that you are looking to purchase. Very important to know about is how safe that vehicle that you're considering will be. There are 2 organizations that perform regular safety and crash tests on different makes and models and rate them for us consumers to know. One is the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. They test offset frontal crashes. So you have 2 cars headed towards each other, and those are offset, driver to driver, just a little bit offset, not full head on, but offset. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, you can find their information at safecar.gov. They actually do test those full frontal and side impact crashes and rate those vehicles on a 5-star scale. 5-star being the safest, of course, and 1-star being what you want to stay away from unless you want to live dangerously. But if I'm putting my family in the car, I would really like to know how many stars or which cars have the most stars, so I can look for those models and protect my family in case of all those other crazy drivers. It's them, not me, that are on the road. And I just love this. We do love our flashy cars, don't we? But cool cars equal costly repairs. Oh, and we're making those car payments on that nice car already, and all of a sudden there's a repair bill. Um, car costs have really increased. Oh, they're high tech specialized people now with lots of computer equipment that they need to know how to use. So those repair costs have actually increased a lot over time, and we need to consider some of those special features on the higher end makes and models might be really expensive to fix or repair if something goes wrong. Like on that BMW 5 Series, they have a parking sensor. So that you don't hit something else. Well, a lot of our cars do that. All those sensors and the special cameras, they're all expensive. They have a cost to them. Those adaptive headlights that turn when you're with your vehicle, they cost a lot more than a regular headlight. Something to think about. Want those expensive features pay for a repair if they go wrong. The best safety ratings are the most fuel efficient and are going to be affordable if I have to repair them. Then again, next thing is I have to find those vehicles ready to purchase. So our next step is checking out the cars that we're looking at. We might want to go to a place to go look at a car. If you're going to do that, take your time. Only look at 3 or 4 cars a day, and maybe take some notes. There are a couple of really good comparison charts that you can fill in as you're shopping that you can download off the web so that you can make sure you're asking the same things about each of the vehicles that you're considering. Because once you've looked at more than 3 or 4, by the end of the day, you're so tired and dizzy from comparing features that you can't remember which car was at which dealership and had which features. Take notes so you can actually compare and make that purchase after thinking and go, what can we do to get you in this car today? That's what they want. They want to close that deal. Then, and they'll tell you, well, the you walk away and think about it, who knows, the next person's going to come and buy this vehicle. Hey, there's more vehicles. There's more. And they're trying to do the high pressure sales. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Purchase that vehicle. I was actually buying a truck one time, and we had just gotten through in the finance office, and they were putting the tag on it when a car full of people, a husband and wife and 3 kids, right up behind our new truck and hopped in the back end. The kids all just hopped in the back end of the truck. And our salesman let us know that that person had been looking at that truck earlier that morning and they were coming back to buy it. Pull it out from under them. But I bet they got a really great vehicle when they finally found the one that was right for them. So take your time, take notes at which cars you saw with which features at which dealerships. Don't overwhelm yourself, and make sure that you are picking out the right car. We're going to talk about how else to check that car, but just for the step, that's what to think about when if you're going to work with a dealership. Other places you can look to purchase, well, there are a lot of private party sellers out there and a lot of new places to shop on the internet. Things to consider if you're going to be purchasing brand new from that dealership is if you buy in stock, what's on the lot there at the dealership, you might be helping the dealer out. They want to move that inventory. They don't like it when cars are too long. So, you might get a better price on something that's been on that lot a little longer. Um, it's a lot negotiating tool. And also, if you're willing to go with unpopular colors, I think white is the most popular color. But, not many people are going for the chartreuse green or the puce yellows. If you're okay with one of those unpopular colors, you might get a better price on the same vehicle that's white. And but while you're looking at what the dealer has in it, consider you've already done some features that you probably decided you want or don't want. And those in-stock models might have or not have some of those features you've already decided on. So you might be making a compromise to get a good price and not got all the features that you want, or end up with more features than you need. Is that a bad thing? Maybe yes, maybe no. You have to maintain those features, right? We just talked about that. So bottom line, and something that a lot of people don't consider, is you can see what you want and they will look for it for you. If they can find what you're looking for on a lot and have it transported there, you win. They sold you the car and they win. Um, there a hold on some makes and models that have done, so you might tell the dealership, put an order in for this make with these features, and you won't get it instantly, or you want. So you're not trapped into buying what's available in their inventory. You have options, but you might get a better deal if you select something that's in inventory. As you're shopping, you might notice that the dealership, besides having new cars, they have some certified used cars or pre-owned cars. That might be something there might entice you in, but keep in mind those certified cars, some of them may actually still have a warranty available. It'll let you know on the sticker. And these certified used cars, that's a car that's passed through a dealer's mechanical and physical inspection. They like to say certified pre-owned. 15-point inspection, 42-point inspection. You might ask them how many points they to certify that used car as a quality used car. It's not a bad question to ask, but there are some assurances that come with that certified pre-owned model over just a pre-owned. And sometimes you can get a good deal on leased rental cars. So rental car companies update their fleets and turn over those cars that have been being rented for sale every so often, and sometimes you can get a really good price on those, but keep in mind, nobody washes a rental car. People drive them like they stole them, so it's going to have some wear and tear on it, but it could be a really good way to get an affordable vehicle. Something to think. Considering buying a pre-owned vehicle from a dealership, there's some things you need to know. Buyer's guide on the window, that sticker is part of the contract for that vehicle purchase. So it's a buyer's guide that provides you with necessary information, but it also provides you the written paper trail of what this dealership said they would provide with that automobile. So it will either be sold as is, it might be too old and the warranty may be worn off, or it's not a transferable warranty. Um, ones that do still have some sort of a warranty on them. What percentage will the dealer pay for a repair under warranty? That's something. So if I get this car and it still has 2 years left on the warranty, what exactly does that mean? Is it a discount or 100% paid repairs? Find out, and then you want to know in writing what that answer is, because that buyer's guide, like I said, becomes part of your contract. Retain it for reference with that written, any of those written promises on them, and then buying used, whether from a dealer or anywhere, suggest that, or have it, take that test drive over to your local mechanic. There's no rule on you not being able to do that. So just you are the consumer, you are the one making this purchase, and you need to take control of that buying situation. Buyer's guide is your contract on that used car. On the flip side, if you're buying used from a private seller, there are a few the extras to remember. You don't have that that certain number of point inspection. It's not a certified pre-owned vehicle, so you might want to make sure that the seller will let you have this vehicle inspected by a mechanic before you buy it. Bring one with you if you have a friend, or say, can we ride up to my local mechanic together? It's going to be sold as is. 9 times out of 10, a warranty is not transferable on a private sale. So as soon as that original owner sells the vehicle, the warranties, if they're still in force, are voided. So it's usually sold as is. And if someone is selling you privately selling you a pre-owned vehicle, I would hope that they have been smart enough to keep their maintenance records. A lot of people keep that in the glove box or somewhere in the car, but anytime you've had that scheduled maintenance done, it's important to document that so that the next owner knows they're getting a well-maintained vehicle. And you want to make sure that you can see that. If someone can't provide that, to me, that would be a big red flag, that especially if it was a high dollar used car being sold, that they really weren't as diligent as they should be with their record keeping and their maintenance. Luckily for us, there are a vehicle, even if it's a dealer certified used car or a private seller, we can pull a Carfax report. You can take a car to a mechanic, like I mentioned, and usually if you're going to do that, look for an ASC certified mechanic. They have a little more training and special certification that says they're done the work to get that certification. That Carfax report, that's a really helpful tool. Not all Carfax report can tell us. Carfax is a really nice resource for people if they're trying to find out the history of a certain vehicle they're looking at. Has it been crashed? Has it had its scheduled maintenance? So you can access those reports by going to carfax.com. You will in the vehicle identification number that'll help you find out the story of that vehicle, and you can pay for a single report or just a few dollars more for unlimited access for 30 days while you're researching all these different vehicles you might be considering. Pay a penny to get a lemon check done by carfax.com. If you can get the VIN and go to carfax.com, you can at the very least, for free, find out if that vehicle was ever declared a lemon. A lemon is a term that describes a vehicle that has gone in for repairs on the same problem without being able to be fixed. So, and once a car is declared a lemon, then the original owner of that is eligible for a replacement vehicle, but that car can still end up on the market for somebody else to accidentally buy if they don't do their research. So at the very least, do a lemon check on the car you're considering. When you do decide on that car, or you're looking at one that you think is the one, well, you're going to have to look at it really close. Senses, but first you're going to use your eyes to look at the body condition. Stand back a little bit and let the sun shine on it. Are you seeing any pockmarks from possible body work? Do you see the bolts matching up and colors matching up from door panel to door panel? That might tell you if that car's ever been in a collision or not, or had to have repairs done. Look underneath for rust or damaged panels, things like that, and definitely check the tires. Use your penny to stick in the tire tread to see if it's got enough tread. Might be a negotiating tool if the tires don't have good enough tread. You might say, I'd be interested in this one if you would consider putting new tires on it. Might be a negotiating tool. Some people do that. But check out the body condition of the vehicle as a first step. And while it's still on the ground, under the underside of the hood, this part, not in the engine compartment, but up here, oil spray or oil leaks. Look at the water pump and make sure that you see battery connections that are clean, not full of corrosion. Want to make sure that hoses and belts and clamps are tight, that the radiator looks pretty solid, and there's a sufficient amount of coolant in the radiator. Just check it and make sure. If you look underneath the vehicle, if there's any spots from possible oil leaks, and maybe even pull the dipstick or however that vehicle's oil is checked to make sure it has sufficient oil in there. And please don't forget to check some of those safety items that we might not think about on those test drive. I mean, who thinks to honk the horn? Or do you back and make sure all the lights and signals work? Turn on the windshield wipers and spray some of that fluid. Make sure it's got the fluid and the windshield wipers are working and don't need to be replaced. All those special things. One thing when that truck that I mentioned I bought, we happened to buy that in the summer. We didn't turn on the heater in the summer, but once it got cold, we went to turn on and found out that truck did not have any available heat. It was a surprise. That was our fault for not checking. Surprise. So yes, even if you don't expect to use that feature, check and make sure it works. Opportunity to get it up on a lift, well, then you could really look and see the inside that car, to look at the brake fluid, make sure there's no leaks there, make sure the exhaust system is intact all the way down the underneath that car. Look at the rear axle and look for any frame or structural damage. If it was hit and it got shifted, you'll be able to see that, or a mechanic would be able to readily recognize that damage. Other things, parts of the suspension should be checked to make sure that is going to be a smooth ride. Those things wear out, need to be replaced every so often. If that's something that you need to plan for, you want to know before you buy that car. Everything looks good, let's take it for a test drive. That's the fun part. Now, where you want to try to drive is normal travel routes. Maybe you're at a dealership close to where you live or where you work, and you might take some of the roads. Listen, use your other senses while you're taking that test drive. Listen for clanks and bangs and tires rubbing on the wheel well. You know, those kind of things are going to be apparent in a test drive. Try to look for different kinds of road conditions. Got a railroad track somewhere where you can bump over to see how well it handles the suspension's working? Look for some construction area, some place where it might be bumpy. If you're in a hilly area, check those brakes on a downhill. What you want to do is make sure you get at least 10 miles or at least 10 minutes at least in that car to see how it feels, how it sounds, you know, do you fit? Are the components where you like them? How well do you see over the dash and out the windshield? The mirrors, are they in the right place for you? Can you reach things? Whack the kids? Who knows? But try those things out, because you're going to live a lot of time in this vehicle that you purchase. If you get to a place where you've taken that test drive, everything looks good, that salesperson is going to turn to you and go, in this car today. And that's where the negotiation begins. Now, step 4, set a price. And negotiations in an auto purchase often have a vocabulary of their own. You might hear terms like invoice price. We've already mentioned that. We saw that on those manufacturers' websites, they would list the invoice price for that vehicle. This is the manufacturer's initial charge to the dealer. And it's usually higher than the dealer actually paid, the dealer's final cost, because that dealer is eligible for rebates, allowances, discounts, and other incentives from the manufacturer when they're replenishing their inventory. So that invoice price is usually higher than the price that the dealer actually paid. Another term is base price. That's the cost of the car without any options, but it does include the standard equipment and the factory warranty. So that is the base price. Every option you add is going to inflate that price a little bit. MSRP. It's also known as the manufacturer's suggested retail price, but this is the base price, the manufacturer's installed options with the manufacturer's suggested retail price for those options and the vehicle. And it includes the manufacturer's transportation charge to get that car to the dealership, and the fuel economy, the mileage included in that MSRP. This the mileage will be listed on that Monroney sticker price. That sticker on the window, it will list the fuel economy. So this is affixed to the car window. The label is required by federal law. It has to have that sticker, and it can only be removed by the purchaser. You notice they let you drive away without it. That is part of your contract, by the way. So there's also a dealer list price, and sometimes you'll hear it on advertising. Everything's being sold less than base price, less than invoice price. Know what they're talking about with these different terms when you hear that advertising. So a dealer list price, that is a supplemental sticker. It's the Monroney sticker price plus a suggested retail price of dealer installed options, such as additional dealer markup or additional dealer profits and undercoating. So there's a different price altogether there. You know what those different price definitions mean as you negotiate. And watch out for the bait and switch. A lot of times we'll see advertising. Some great car, you've done your research, this is a great model, great price, I'm going to get that one. And you see it advertised in a flyer for some really low amount. You go to that dealership and get that. That's a great deal. You get there and you go, I'm looking this morning, but here's one just like it for this much. The bait and switch. They advertise a low-priced car and they switch you off into a different one because, and that one's not available anymore. Be careful about that. And one caution, sometimes dealerships will go, yeah, you can try 30 days. If you don't like it, you can return it. But 30 guarantee. Well, the research on that option has found out that they call that a loophole palooza. Some manufacturers offer that 30-day money-back guarantee, and this is a prime example of a promise that falls apart on closer inspection. So what happens is you're allowed to return a car for any reason within that month, that 30 days. According to Detroit News columnist Brian J. O'Connor, he dubbed this the world's most expensive test drive because of all the fees, taxes, and other expenses end up paying. So dealers can charge a 5% restocking fee. They can add a 50-cent per mile penalty and hang on to any sales tax that you paid, among other costs. So the buyer gets only what's left. So if you put numbers on that, which O'Connor did, he reported that someone buying a car for $34,000 would be out about $4,600 or 13.5% of the price if they brought that car back. That's a daily cost of $153 if they drove it until the very end of that 30-day period, and even more if they returned it sooner. So the world's most expensive test drive is something we want to stay with, the 30-day return. The description, the terms, and how this is going to work. You know the vehicle is the one you want. Or we use that research that we're armed with to get the firm reasonable offer with the dealership. And the best way to negotiate a vehicle's price is to have a starting price. Say the Consumer Reports bottom line price, maybe that you researched, and you add maybe 2 to make some profit on the transaction. That's how they stay in business. And the dealer has to pay for the cost to finance the car, which is called the flooring. So they have to have some sort of a markup, but not too much above the dealer cost. So and once you come up with that, get that in writing. Salesman will sell you the car at your reasonable offer with hopes that they'll make more profit in the financing, with the financing and extras. So that there's some incentive for the car salesman to keep the price high, but there is an ability to, let you have some wiggle room on the price so that they can inflate the cost when you get in the finance department. Buying a car is not always a logical decision. It's, like I mentioned, an emotional one for a lot of us. And the person who jumps up and down and buys the car that looks nice is an easy sale for the salesman. If you are prepared, you will get the best deal. And remember, like on some purchases, you're not given a 3 days right of rescission to back out of a deal. Once you sign the paperwork, there is no cooling off period, and you leave with the vehicle, you are the owner. So what you want to try to do is keep the parts of the transaction separate, because I wish I had a balloon. Those long blow-up balloons that clowns do, think about that. That's what the dealerships try to do is, if you can squeeze one end, it makes another part more inflated, right? So they'll let you have a little bit on maybe the trade-in and for the car, or maybe less for the car, but they're going to get you in the financing. I hate to say get you, but they're going to try to talk you into spending more money in the financing. We'll talk about how in just a second. So you want to keep those 3 parts of the balloon, 3 parts of the transaction separate. When you pull up to that lot in your car and get out, the first thing the sales are, oh, that's a nice car. Are you going to trade that in? Don't answer that yet. Try not to answer that, unless you're really sure. But, cards close to your chest while you're doing this negotiation and checking. You'll get a better deal if you can keep all 3 of those transactions as individual transactions instead of letting the dealership use one to inflate the other, right? So think about that as you are negotiating. Think about that when you're sitting in the finance office being offered all of those extras. You're going to get offered all kinds of things. Credit life insurance, gap coverage. Ooh, gaps. Down. And just a simple note, to get gap coverage from the dealership, you can go to your auto insurer, whoever you have your auto insurance with already, and ask for gap coverage on your new vehicle and not have to pay interest on the cost of the gap coverage that will get rolled into your loan. Ooh. So try not to, maybe coverage from the dealership. Extended warranties and extended service contracts are just, they're convenience deals, but not always the most cost effective in the long run for you. That exterior and interior finish protection is just an added extra. Undercoating and rust proofing. VIN etching. Let's see, the VIN's already on 3 parts of the car, 2 parts of the car, and the title. Do I need it etched somewhere else? And do I need to pay interest on the cost that you charge me and roll into my loan to have that VIN etched? Rep fees. Out for those in your contract. They may be just listed, and you can ask, is this a standard fee? Is this something that I am have to pay for? Some dealerships do include a standard fee, and then you can negotiate in other parts if you see that. Vehicle, new or used, but let's just shift gears a minute and talk about leasing. Leasing works for some people. If you drive a lot of miles, you may not want to lease because there are fees for over mileage. Well, get the terms in writing of the lease agreement. And some of those terms you might look for, as they will have standards on how much wear and tear the vehicle can have at the end of the lease. You're responsible for paying for some cleanup or just to fix any minor damage. Like I mentioned, there might be a mileage limit. If you go over that limit during the lease period, you'll have to pay a fee for that. So, and if you turn the vehicle in early, there might be charges for early termination of the lease agreement. So you want to understand all of those options, all of those end of lease requirements before you agree to a lease. Some people don't want the cost of a depreciating asset that they're paying for. They don't want to own it at the end of it when it has no value. So leasing can be a way to more effectively manage your money. You don't have responsibility of the maintenance sometimes. Sometimes that's included in the lease. That's helpful. So, but just look at what the end of lease options are so you can make sure you meet those terms and don't have to pay extra fees, and realize at the end you won't have a down payment for the next vehicle. But not leasing isn't right for everyone, but it's not wrong for everyone either. So you've purchased or leased the proper vehicle for yourself, and while you have this auto relationship, you want to get the most from it, right? Follow those scheduled maintenance recommendations. If you've opted for an extended maintenance package, you might get notified that it's time for your oil changes, your belt replacements, things like that. Use the recommended parts and fluids, because if you don't, you may end up voiding the warranty on that vehicle that was really important when you researched it. So you want to use all of your senses to detect problems right away. Look at the color of the at the engine. How clean is it? Look for spots. Smell the smell of the gas or oil. If it's leaking, you'll smell that from the engine that don't sound right. And don't taste the car, just don't. But this to detect problems right away and keep it clean. Are going into this auto relationship with the intention that maybe you only keep your car for 3 to 5 years, and you do intend to sell it to someone else and get a new one. Some people do that, and some people drive it till the wheels fall off. But if you're one of those people that plans on reselling it, you want to take some extra steps to keep it clean and reduce the visibility of wear and tear. So maybe floor mats, a steering wheel cover to protect the steering wheel from your hand grip over time, seat covers to protect the interior from your use. This can go a long way to help you get your resale value out of the car at the end of the relationship. And keep that in mind. And even if we do our best to maintain this vehicle, we're going to have unexpected repairs. So expect them. Be ready with your pocket, with a little pool of cash to make sure you can keep your transportation on the road and still going. And it's really a repair shop that knows you before you need one. So if you have a relationship with a mechanic or a repair shop, great. You can go to them to get make sure they can give you a written estimate for how much any the parts are going to cost and labor, so you know what you're getting into. But keep up with the scheduled maintenance. That's the best way to make sure you can reduce money on the cost of repairs. It's important to know when to say goodbye. You know, when the car breaks down so much and we're spending so much in repairs that it's costing us more than it would cost to have a new auto loan payment, maybe say goodbye. But some people do keep that car, trying to keep their cars until the wheels fall off, and some people do a few years and avoid the cost of that maintenance. So here's an example of that. Here's if someone bought a Honda Civic EX that they plan to keep and drive until it fell apart. Over 15 years, the base price would only be $19,000 versus buying a new every 3 years. That's $19,000 times 3, basically, with a little bit of added inflation costs over time. But these vehicles would all depreciate if you bought them brand new. See how the depreciation is much higher because you're paying it for 3 vehicles, not 1. But the maintenance and repairs on the one vehicle is a lot higher than for the purchasing new every 3 years. Finance and interest is a little bit less because you are only paying off that loan once instead of starting that loan again every 5 years. And it's same thing with the fees and taxes. Insurance, if you could see that number, I am so sorry, would cost you a little bit less. But bottom line, keeping the 15 years would end up costing about $57,000 vehicle over 15 years versus having a new vehicle every 5 years, that same vehicle over time. You can't see the number. It is actually $77,000. So it costs you a little bit less. Even though you're spending more on repairs, it ultimately costs you a little bit less to hold on to the car longer, as long as you maintain it properly. We have come to the end of our time together, and we have gone over how to finance, to get the best pricing on your financing for your automobile and what's involved with that. We've talked about researching that financing and that automobile to make sure we're getting the best buy, how to test it, what to look for to make sure it's a quality vehicle, and then we talked a little bit about maintaining it and knowing when to say goodbye. So that's all the process of auto buying and auto ownership, except for insurance, which we will talk about next. Auto insurance is a whole nother animal involved with your driving experience. And thank you for joining me for that. You learned this from your local county extension office. And extension, if you're not familiar with it, is a program that's been around for more of a land-grant university system across the nation and in every U.S. territory that provides research-based, non-biased information to members of the public so you can make better decisions. You have a local extension office in your state, and in Florida, in your county. Every county in Florida has an extension office, so you can go to that office in person. You can find us on the web. Just Google extension and your state name. You'll find all kinds of resources, in-person programs, handouts, and information documents, a wide variety of resources to help you make better decisions so you have a sustainable life. Thank you for joining me. My name's Carol Roberts. I'm the Community Resource Development Agent for St. Lucie County Extension, the University of Florida IFAS Extension Service. And I hope you'll join me for more segments of this financial education series.